Hello, Summer is here. Welcome back to my channel. And it's a new episode of my podcast show. And we have our guest that he is my favorite romance conlanger. His name is Lingaust. Can you introduce yourself to our listener, Lingaust?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation to participate in your podcast.
Yeah.
As I told you before, it's an honor. My name is William Salazar. I am from Colombia, and I am the creator of this romance Conlang, as you said, Lingaust.
Oh, your project is such amazing thing, I must to say. It's very naturalism. It's very beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so our topic today is actually the romance conference. You know that romance conference is very famous in our Conlang community.
Yes.
Do you think is that because romance is one of the famous languages that people learned, or it have another reason?
I think there are two main reasons. The first one that I think is just personal opinion is because the Romance language family is huge. You know,
Yeah, you're
there are so
right.
many languages and many speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So its linguistic history is quite interesting, diverse, and it's very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And its origin, I mean, the origin of this language family, is
Mm-hmm.
well documented. I mean, we can find a lot of documents
Uh,
in Latin,
yeah,
and you can compare the evolution of these different languages. So I think that is quite interesting to see this and to find a lot of material where you can work on your conlangs. And the second reason that I think is because the number of conlangers who
mm,
are Romance languages natives is
yeah,
also quite high. So I think that we feel interested or more confident in trying to create a language, a Romance language,
mm,
where we can make some good decisions, good improvements to make it real. You know what I
that's
mean?
true. That's true. And most of the
Yes.
Conlang came from America. So
Mm-hmm.
the second languages are mostly Spanish. So I think it might be influenced into this quite over circles over Conlangers.
Yes.
That's cool. And also, as you said, that the resource of the Romance language is huge on the
Mm-hmm.
internet. So that's pretty impressive that you have this kind of idea. So,
Oh, yes.
yeah. So, what's the inspiration of you to make a romance content?
Well, the inspiration, well, it's a little bit interesting because it was when I was in high school,
Yes.
uh, I saw some classmates that they were using some kind of con script to change
Concept.
to write a secret messages, right? So
Uh,
I found it quite interesting, and I said later, I said, well, I can create my own con script, and I did it.
yeah.
And after that, I said, well, why not a language? So I started to create the first version of Lingaust, which was
Uh,
very simple. So, in order, no, so after I began to study languages and some
uh,
linguistics and so on.
right.
I introduced a more complex structure and naturality to Lingaust. So
I
it was the
see.
origin.
That's very
Yes.
cool. Actually,
Uh-huh.
that's also the story about me. So I was creating,
Yes.
yeah, a conscript and I think another language and then making a pond over them. It's cool.
I have seen that when I check your Conlang
Yeah.
and your account. Yes, because for example, in your Conscript and some words that I can identify is I can see that I can see actually what you said about this inspiration that we have.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so similar. Okay, so what do you think? What makes a Romance conlang unique? Grammar from
Mhm.
Romance languages, or lemmas from Romance languages, or some secrets that depends on the languages.
Well, I think it's much about the creator of the language. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
very subjective in the way how the creator looks for his conlang, the
Yeah.
kind of pronunciation that, for example, in my case, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
pronunciation that I look for my language, how I
Mm-hmm.
feel much comfortable and it
Mm-hmm.
sounds good to me, and how I want to be express or write my conlang.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the details that make a conlang unique. For
Mm-hmm.
example, okay, I think that we try to make a conlang that can look nice, that can look interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and and at the same time very common to others, not something
Mm-hmm.
quite different. I'm talking from my experience, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I try to include some details that are very particular and
Uh,
very unique. For example, something that is very unique in Lingaust, I don't know if you have noticed, is the use of the Q,
right,
the
right.
letter Q.
That's very
Yes,
such amazing thing. It's
yes,
cool.
because it replaces the C, it replaces the K, it replaces the Q. So
Yeah.
it's something that you easily identifies if you see a text with a lot of Q's in the words.
Actually, I think it is very important because you know that the most Romance language has palatalized the C sound, so it becomes from key to C. But if you
Yes.
use Q, it will
Hmm.
it will release this kind of confusion.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's very impressive.
Yes. And for example, in other cases,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, is the pronunciation that you want for your conlang.
Mm.
Because the Romance languages have some, of course, they have some things in common, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Especially the pronunciation, with exceptions, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you try to look, okay, I want this letter or this letter with a specific sound. So you
Yeah.
try to apply it and make it common in your conlang. So
Mm-hmm.
details like this make a Romance language or a Romance conlang unique.
Yeah, that's right. And also, I think that there were very huge problems about the making um, Romance languages in this community because most people are just compare like French, Italian, and Spanish, and they combine these three kinds of language together to make a new words and to make a new grammar. But
Hmm.
I'm always doubt that is that a conlang or just like a language salad, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. I, for example, in my case, I used to take, for example, if I need a word,
Mm-hmm.
I I how can I explain this? I'm sorry because English is not my native language, so I just think before to express something. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. For example, I have some patterns in my
Mm-hmm.
Conlang, so I know that, for example, the endings of some specific kind of words,
Yeah.
I know already how it's going to be. But for
Mm-hmm.
other words that I haven't created before, so I need to compare the
Mm-hmm.
Latin root to see
Uh-huh.
how has been the evolution that I have created to my conlang and try to follow the same pattern, right?
Yeah.
I
Recording
I
some
don't
change.
exactly. I don't use words just random words because I like it. No. So I said if this word changed in that way before, so this another word which has some similar characteristics, it
Yeah.
must
Right.
follow the
Right.
same evolution. So
Yeah.
this is the way how I create the words. And in some cases, I try to show this in my account
Mm.
when I try to show, okay, it comes from Latin and this is the how it end
Mm-hmm.
and the comparison with other languages.
Yeah, that's very pretty. Actually, that's why I like your account and your language very much. It's very creative, but it's very sensible.
Thank you so much.
So, as we talked before, that do you think that borrowing the words from modern languages better than driving from Latin, which is better? So, in your experience, you are derived from Latin, but maybe some new conlangers compare the modern languages over the romantic languages and make a new word, make a new grammar. How do you think about this kind of question? This kind of a dilemma?
Yeah. Well, in my case, most derive from Latin.
Yeah,
I think that
true.
maybe 90% come from Latin.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are some specific words that I borrowed from Romance languages for
Mm-hmm.
different reasons. For
Oh,
example, but however, if I borrow some word from a Latin language, from a Romance language, I try to look for some relation between that word that I am borrowing and the
mm-hmm.
Latin root.
Ah,
So yes, I try to look this connection. I don't choose
okay.
a random word. No, I try to look if it has some kind of relation from
Yeah, yeah,
Latin.
yeah.
So
I can understand.
in Lingaust, you can find some knots or wings. I don't know what's the word for this. Some wings to Romanian language. Just a few
That's
words,
true.
but you can find, for example, one example, the verb amintar. Amintar
Mm-hmm.
means to remember,
Yeah.
and it comes from Romanian. However, if you take the word amintar, it comes from two words, a, which is used before a verb in some cases in Lingaust,
Mm-hmm.
and the word mintar, and mint comes from ment, and ment
Mm-hmm.
in Lingaust is mind in English.
Mm-hmm.
So it has some kind of sense. It makes sense, no?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that is it's like, okay, remind, to make remember something. So I mean, that is to
Ah.
remember, and it comes from Romanian, but it has relation with Latin in some way.
It's very interesting and it's very natural. It's like the bone and the flesh of your language is from Latin, but you can also have some long word from other languages. and
Exactly.
derive that into your language with the pattern you have.
Mm. Yeah, or I have another example as according to what you said.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a greeting. The greeting in the informal greeting in Lingaust is bune,
Bonne.
and bune, yes, and bune comes from bonum, from
Bonum.
Latin bonum,
Yeah.
but in plural. So if you look for the same greeting in Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
we say buenas in plural, buenas.
Boiras.
So buenas, yes.
Boiras.
And
Okay.
if you look for the same greeting in Romanian is buna.
Buna.
So I try to combine. I said, okay, if I say bun, which means good, bun is good, but I say bune, which is plural, is a
Yeah.
way to say a formal, an informal
Ah.
hello, you
Okay.
know. So combining the style of Spanish, but at the same time combining a greeting from Romania. But
Ah.
all of
Cool.
them are related to Latin.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's the way I do it.
Interesting. Okay, so can you give the listeners some changes from Latin to your naturalist languages?
Okay, let me think. Yes, as you know, in Latin, the letter C, right?
Yes, the
In some,
patternization.
yes, it sounds like K, right?
Yeah.
So in some words, I try to conserve the same pronunciation. However, in some natural Romance languages, the pronunciation of the C has changed, very
Yeah.
different from Latin. For
So
example,
yeah, like Latin key becomes to chi in Italian and French is
exactly,
C. Yeah, and
exactly,
say in
exactly,
Spanish.
exactly. For example, the word for friendship in Lingaust
Mm-hmm.
is amicitia.
Amicits.
Ami,
Ah,
amicitia, yes. So, and it's written in Latin, it's written with C, but in
yeah,
Lingaust,
right.
it's written with Q.
Yeah,
And the ending, for example, in Latin is amicitia, but
amicitia.
the end, yes, but the ending of tia at the end of the word, I changed into Lingaus for a like a TC, right? So
Uh-huh.
this is something that is very common in Lingaus, the end of for
Yeah.
this kind of endings.
Yeah. Oh, also you remember u sounds in the ending, like bonu becomes bonu. But in most Latin language, the u becomes o, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's right. However, I don't. There are some just few cases where it's not. No, it's not that common that in Lingaus the words ending in vowel. You can find them. Yes, you can find them,
Mm-hmm.
but there are few because you can find especially the e because is the plural. It's one of
Mm.
the ways I use plural in Lingaus because, for example, if the word ends in vowel, the plural is with s. However,
Mm.
if the word ends in a consonant, the plural is with e.
Ah. Ah.
Yeah,
So with n and added s
exactly,
with consonants and ends in e.
exactly.
Okay, that's cool. So you have two different patterns over plurality, right?
Yes, yes, and I think that I published a post about this because there are some words that don't have plurals. For example, the word for other is atre. So
Uh-huh.
atre works as singular and as plural.
Atli,
So this
atli.
is atre.
Oh,
Yes,
cool.
atre. Yeah.
Cool. So you have different pattern of the pluralities
Yes,
according to the endings of the word.
exactly. If it ends in consonant, you have to add an e. For
Okay.
example, for example, if I say lun,
Mm-hmm.
which means moon, so lune means moons.
Ah, okay.
So that's the way it works. Or for example, if you say, let me think, a word with dita. Dita means day. So if you say
Dita.
ditas, is days because it ends
Ah,
in a vowel.
yeah. So vowel with S and
Uh-huh.
consonant with E. That's
And
cool.
the adjectives, they don't have plurals. I don't use it in plurals as most of the Romance languages,
Mm.
except when I am using the verb to be. For
With the
example,
word to be.
exactly. For example, if I am going to say, this boy is little, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or for example, no. These boys are little. So in Lingaust, I say, for example, que es pichute, sen,
Pichute.
sen picute.
Se picute.
Picut, because picut is little.
Uh-huh.
Picute is little in plural. Is the
Ah,
characteristic, the plural for them, for the boys.
okay. Oh, that's cool. I like this
Yes.
kind of irregularity actually. So, what's your favorite sound change in Lingaust from Latin? Your favorite one?
My favorite changes.
Yeah.
Let me think. Oh, yes. For example, something that I like is I changed the X for
X.
an for a sound of sh, and it's represented in Lingaus
Oh.
with an S with an accent above the S.
Oh.
So, for example, the word, let me think a word. A ver, let me think. Uh, um, the word for the number six, right?
Six. Yeah. Sex in Latin.
Yes. So in Lingaus is sish,
Sis.
S
Ah.
I, yes, S I, and S with an accent above.
Okay. Oh, actually, I can imagine because the sk sounds is very normal to become the sh or the sk sound.
Yeah. Or for example, another word, strange.
Mm-hmm.
Strange comes from extrano. So in
Estran.
Lingaus is stran, stran.
Estran. Oh, it's very similar in German actually. So the ST and SP cluster becomes st or the sp and st.
Mm-hmm.
It's oh
Yeah.
amazing. It's
And
cool.
other change that I do in Lingaus that may that which makes unique Lingaus now that I remember is that the letter L before a T disappears.
So L
For
before
example,
T.
yes, the L, the letter L
Yes.
before E disappears. For example, if I am going to say in Latin, the word for a something high,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
high is altus.
Yeah, altos, sir, is like
E-
alto.
Exactly, in Spanish, alto in Spanish.
Yeah.
But in Lingaust is
At.
at,
Ah,
yes.
so. The L
80,
disappear.
80. Exactly.
It's
So
very
this is,
common also
yeah, this is
because
another,
le sound or
e-
re sound will disappear sometimes after
exactly. This is
the
another
vowels.
characteristic. And I like this change as well.
It's very pretty, actually. Beautiful, exactly. Okay,
Thank you
so
so much.
so how about the grammar? So the grammar is also evolved from Latin or not?
Yes. The I think that Lingaust is more close to the grammar, to the common points of grammar of the other Romance languages.
Mm-hmm.
For example, uh, Latin is, well, the cult Latin has a specific grammar that if you compare with the modern Romance languages, there are some details that are quite similar or the same,
Mm,
but others are quite different,
yeah, right.
especially in the syntax. So in Lingaus, I try to, in order to make it more real, more naturalistic, I
Mm-hmm.
conserve common aspects between the other Romance languages. So it's
Mm-hmm.
noun, verb, and object.
Averages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, in many modern Romance languages, the verb conjugation is not very complex than the Latin one. And how about
Hmm.
yours? Do you have also a dramatically huge table for the verb to conjugation?
Yes. I have conjugation for different tenses,
Yeah.
present, simple present, past simple, and so on.
Cool.
And yeah, and they have the rules,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more regular than natural Romance languages. They
Ah,
change for each person. They change, obviously, but the
yeah.
cases of irregular verbs are very few. I have few
Okay.
irregular verbs.
So
I have
less than
irregular.
other modern languages of a Romance family.
Yes, because the natural Romance languages they have a lot of irregular ones.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
think that I have.
very elder.
Yes,
It's like an elder one because in Latin it's well much much regular than the modern one because the sound
yes.
changes. That's cool.
So yeah, and so in that case, the most irregular verbs in Lingaus are the most common irregular verbs in other Romance languages. For example, the verb to be, to have, to say, to
Uh,
have,
so the common
to make,
ones.
yeah, to do. Yes, in those cases, those are irregular. However, in spite of they are some irregularity, the
Mm-hmm.
endings are the same for that you can find in all verb conjugation.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And what's your favorite grammar feature in your language's lingers? Actually,
Yes,
my favorite grammar features in my
yes,
Latin-like languages, Mondir, is it has a genitive verb, so that's the verb marks with a genitive object. And what's yours?
uh, I think that. Yeah, I understood. So to answer your question, I could say that in my case, I'm trying to look for the exact word. Let me think. Uh, okay, perfect. Well, in this case, for Lingaust, one of the grammar aspects that I like the most is the use of the future because I use the same structure as in English, be going to, but
Yes.
in Lingaus, I delete or I don't use the word to. I just use the verb to be
Oh.
and yes, sorry, the verb to be and the verb to go, but conjugated in present tense and
Mm-hmm.
immediately the verb of the action that I'm going to do. For example,
Okay.
in English, we say, I am going to talk. I am
Right.
going to talk. In Lingaus, I say, ek vau falar. Ek means I,
Mm-hmm.
vau means going,
Mm.
y to talk is replaced to falar, just falar. Quite similar
Ah,
to Portuguese.
right. So in French is also the same structure like venir, bucklet or so. So it actually has the two with as the preposition, but you delete the preposition
Exactly.
and use
And
the infinitive form instead.
yes, the verb in infinitive. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, that's the way it works in Lingaust for this kind of future.
I can understand why you like that.
Yeah. Other aspect in grammar that I like, well, mm, I think the same the rest of the grammar in Gauss is quite similar to other Romance languages.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so there are that I know that my language, my Conlang has some details, as I told you before, very unique, but in grammar, it tends to be quite similar to others.
Okay, I see. Well, the next question might be very interesting. Will the romance conlangs? I know that you have a bond or a group of your romance conlang empire. So will these kinds of conlangs interact with each other? If so, how will they interact with others?
Yeah, yes, the answer is yes. And I'm going to explain how. I have some conlangers who I talk to
Mm-hmm.
constantly, and sometimes we have tried to communicate with simple conversations using our conlangs. And it's
Oh,
quite interesting because
that's
we could
cool.
understand each other. Yes. For example, I have a very close friend who I talk to constantly, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
he say hello to me, and I reply, and we start using our conlangs, and it's quite interesting because we understand each other,
Oh
and
my
or for
god.
example, yes, I have talked to other very good conlangers, and we use collaborative posts. So sometimes I talk to them and I say, hey, I would like to write this sentence in your conlangs just to make a
Mm-hmm.
comparison and say, oh, that's cool. Yes, this is my translation. Or sometimes they write to me and say, hey, Lingaust, I want to use your conlang for this comparison of a sentence. And I say that that's fine. And
Mm-hmm.
once with Jovan, who is one of my friends in this world, he said, "Hey William, let's try to make a live in Instagram, trying to imitate the YouTuber Ecolinguist.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so we are going to look for 5 words. I'm going to say the description of this word in my conlang, and you have to guess what's the word I'm talking to.
Oh
So
my
he,
god.
yes, we tried that
That's
once.
only the romance Conlang can do.
Yeah, that, yes, we tried to do this, and it was quite interesting. It was our first try. We didn't do anymore, but this is something that I have in mind, maybe to do later with some conlangers. It will be very interesting. So
Yeah, it
I,
sounds very interesting.
yeah, he said 5 words, and I could guess some. So I said my 5 words, the description of my
Mm,
5 words, and he could guess some of them as well. It was very, very interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
That's only your romance conlangers can do that. So as a art lang conlanger, it's well very hard to do because no one will get anything.
Yeah, that's something that people can identify with the conlangs that the a priori and a posteriori conlangs,
Mm.
because the a posteriori they could be very much easier to understand each other if they belong to the same family. But with a priori conlangs, which are very interesting, they are fantastic. It could be, as you
Mm.
said, a little bit complicated because you can find a word that you can, okay, this word is this. I don't know the other, but I can make some connections. So
Uh-huh.
it's quite difficult.
Do you have other conlangs out of Lingaust?
Yes, I have another two conlangs. They are also Romance conlangs, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them is quite similar. No, I try to make a conlang quite similar to Latin. If you see
Mm.
this and you compare, you say, okay, this is Latin, but it's not at the same time.
Oh.
Uh, and the other that and the another conlang which has some other things that I would like to find in a natural
Mm.
Romance language. But I haven't worked on them too much. My concentration is with Lingaust, and I
Okay.
wanted to create the other two because I was
Uh-huh.
working in a project of a con world
Okay.
with another friend. So to create these conlangs was part of the project. So I think that I have a post of them in Lingaust sometime before,
Uh-huh.
but they are I don't know how to say that. They are in a quiet place right now.
Okay. So will your conlangs interact with another conlangs? So like the projects that similar to Latin will interact with Lingaust, and the Lingaust will influence your new languages that's much similar than with Latin. Will they have some interaction or so? Because in my Kang world, I have a language family, Gai family, and they actually will have some loan words from other languages in Gai languages and interact and have another loan word from other languages.
Oh,
Yeah, so
yeah.
the word to say in a common coastal town or in
Mm-hmm.
Bielusa is Ada, which is came from
Eta.
which is came from or the Chuk. So in Chuk the word is Aida. So Aida becomes Ada.
Ah.
I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very interesting because the
Yes.
conlangs interact with each other just under our eyes. It's very similar to our natural world is very interesting. So will you do
Yes.
that too?
Excuse me. Could you repeat the
Will
question again?
will you do that too? I think it will be very
Yes.
interesting.
Yes. And this is something that happens in Lingaust. As I told you before, with some words, no, that I try to relate, that I try to find what is the relation with the Latin roots.
Mm,
It doesn't matter, even if they come or I borrow from a Romance language.
mm.
Yeah.
But the content itself will.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that will be all for this episode. Do you have anything you want to say to the listeners? Or I think I must name them like this kind of uneducated listeners.
Well, a special greeting for all the listeners and a special thank you, Tegrat Muton, for this invitation. It was, and as I told you, it was an honor to participate in your podcast because I've seen
Oh,
you in Instagram. You are a very active conlanger,
I'm
and I
not that
know I'm
active,
yes,
actually.
yes.
I
I think that
person
you are
like I post
constantly.
a
You
post
are.
like two months.
But you are publishing constantly your different questions, interactions, and so in some way you become an inspiration for other conlangers who wants to start or who want to get into this war of the conlanging.
Really?
So yeah, yeah, I know that. I'm sure about
Oh my
this.
god.
So I really appreciate this time with you and the invitation to
No.
participate.
Oh my god, I'm ruining others' life.
No, 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 no. I know that they find inspiration when they see someone who is so dedicated as you are.
Oh my god. Okay,
Yeah,
anyway. Okay, anyway, so you can now listen this kind of podcast not only on YouTube but also on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and maybe Google Podcasts. And also we have Patreon. If you want to support me, you can pay like €1, €3, or €10 if you reach. And do you have anything you want to say to the listeners, like follow your Instagram or something?
sure. If you want to follow Lingaust in Instagram, you are welcome. You are going to find different kind of publications about famous sentences or quotes and things like that. I use comics from other illustrators, so I ask for permission to translate things. So it's that you can find a variety of things in
Mm.
Lingaust.
People come, just follow him. His page is a diamond of the romance conlangers community. Please focus on him. And I think that is Ep6.